Traders, welcome. Glad to be here with you all, and glad to be going over the CWAP algo. This has been one that our team has been working on for a long time, and really glad to see that they pulled it off. I don't know how they did it, but they did, and we all stand to benefit. So good stuff. Yeah, it's really great strategy and came together nicely. So charts in the workspace were set up to end date 26. Couldn't get charts. Oh, yeah, that's likely. You just do you know how to set it to the current date, Ben? I'll show you. This is a good point for anybody who's like on the workspace. How come the charts are not in the right date? That's because they have custom range. So you just want to set it to bars or days rather, and then just do like 2 to 3 days. Yeah. 2 to 3 days. Yeah, we're recording, so we'll get you the recording on this. Of course, this is very important that we record this. Absolutely. So if you're struggling with that, or if you ever, go back, like I know for me personally, I'll go back and back test the chart and I'll just pick different dates. Just make sure you set it back to the current date. So yeah, so that's a quick and easy fix. Not a problem. So yeah, CWAP Algo, really a great tool. Of course, we are going to be looking at trades and trading and stuff. So we got to put our disclaimer here, and we got to tell you that we can't tell you what to trade, when to trade, how to trade, how much to trade. We can only tell you it is up to you, and we can show you how, but you're the one clicking the button. It's your money. Okay. Fair enough. All right, cool. So settings. So these settings, and now I'm not sure, so I'm going to ask the Mr. Jeff. I pulled up these settings on the NQ. I believe this is all day version 1 scalp. Okay. Were these optimized through, was it the 21st? Is that when it was optimized through? What date did you optimize this through? Because it looks great. Looks really great.
It would have been, I'm actually just pulling up the workspace right now.
Yeah.
It would have been either 1 or 2 days, up till 1 or 2 days before the launch date.
Okay.
Normally that's what we do, but I
So
can verify that for you.
clearly it's still hanging on just fine. Like, this is great. Here's the thing that I'm always interested in as a trader, and I think most of you would agree with me on this, is backtests are backtests, and that's great. And it's good to know what your edge is and how to trade it and how to get the most out of it, and all that's good. But the only thing that matters is, can you use it the next day? Can you get some good trades? Can you make money with it? And with a $2,100 gain for the day, I'd like to say things went pretty well, right? And even a little bit there. And yeah, there's a loss from time to time, right? It's going to happen. But yeah, it looks really good. So these are the settings just on the scalping settings. I mean, here's the thing, like, we're going to go over how it works and how to, how to get what you want out of it and stuff, but this is the easiest thing that I've seen to be able to get winning templates. And it doesn't seem to take much to get some really good settings. So yeah, very good. This is NQ 1000 volume on the scalping setup on version 1 scalping. And this is through today.
And that's the micro.
Yeah,
right?
micro NQ,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah. Yeah, micro NQ. And here's the deal. Having traded, and Jeff, you can chime in because you've got a lot of experience trading with CWAP as well. The best that I've found trading CWAP is on the equities. Mainly NQ and RTY have always been the best for me. ES is great. You just don't get as many trades with ES. But I've always found that those are the best. CL is good when it wants to be. And it's also sometimes kind of hit or miss. And gold is, well, gold is gold. So I don't know what to tell you there. So that's been my experience with it. Jeff, what's your thoughts? I mean, you've been trading CWAP a long time too.
The micro NASDAQ is my favorite. You just get a lot of movement, and you can get a pretty reliable hit every time on, you don't have to go for a big R multiple.
Yeah.
But it really reacts when it pulls back at that area.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems to be a really good market for this setup.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, we got a good question about oil or FX, and absolutely you can trade this on oil. My and I have a setup here. We can pull it up. Actually, I'll pull it up here. Um, where I put it on a 45-second chart. I did it on a 3 minute. And the thing is with a 3 minute, you don't get a lot of trades. You might get 10, 15 trades a month. Like you're not even getting one a day, which, for most of us as traders, we don't trade just one instrument. So usually that's fine. You figure if you want to get a few trades a day, you want to trade a few different markets, right? And that's how we trade anyway. But I put this on a 45-second and it's just trying different fractals and trying different volume. The volume charts weren't great because there's not a lot of volume on crude. So it's not going to be as fluid as like ES or NQ, the micros, obviously we're talking about here. But yeah, I mean, this was the 45-second. And so there's a good number of trades here. 51 trades, from the 5th to today. Looks good. Decent profit factor, great profit. So yeah, a lot of opportunity. So let's go in and let's take a look at it. What does this thing do? How does it work? All that good stuff. And rather than look at it here, I'm going to pull it up on a regular chart so that we can see what we're dealing with here. Yeah, let's just go this one. So actually, let me go back to the other one we were doing. Scalp all day. Cool. All right, so let's go in here. I'm going to pull up the settings. Let me make sure I got the right dates. I'll just go days. It's 10 days. Yes, you can. So Paul's got a question. Can you run the algo on both NQ and RTY? Same time, one workspace in NinjaTrader? Yes, absolutely. So here's what you can do. You can run it on different markets, obviously. So if you want to run, one setting on MNQ, you want to run a different setting on RTY and a different one on ES, you can do that. What if you want to run a micro ES too? Can you do that? Yes, absolutely. You can run on one account, okay? You can run as many templates as you want, but only one per instrument, okay? If you have multiple accounts, then you could run MES on this template, and then you can run MES on another template, and then you can run it on another template. These all have to be attached to different accounts and different charts. Okay, so you can't have it on the same chart, same time. I don't know what'll happen, but I can't imagine it'll be good. Okay. So yes, use it on multiple instruments. Yeah, absolutely. Good to go. Let's pull up the settings. Okay. Well, cool. And I have saved it to my time zone and so on. Well, what you don't want to happen is that you have dueling. I'm just go back to this. It's fine. You don't want to have dueling algos on the same market, right? So like on this template, you might get a long on MNQ, but if you've got it on another chart, same account, and it's trying to short MNQ, that's not going to work. So that's why you'd need different accounts if you're doing it that way. Or you could run one on the major, the NQ, and you can run the other one on the micro if you want, whatever you want to do. Yeah, trade copier, exactly. If you just use the multiple accounts, right? So yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is pull this up, this down. Our old familiar friends are here with us. We've got the EMAs. You could do simple moving average. You can do exponential moving averages. You can do 1 or 2 with crossovers, or you can do a stepping moving average. Okay, so those are some of the filters. Of course, we've got our VML down here, which is going to be similar to, it's a souped up MACD. It's more responsive, works better. I guess that's my opinion, but my opinion's right because I have the microphone. VM lean is great. So it's great for momentum. We also have, there's sort of two different things going on here. We've got the histogram, which is going to have these peaks, right? Peaks and valleys. This is going to be the histogram. Think of that as your fast, similar to like a MACD. And then the BBs, these guys doing this kind of thing, this is going to be your slow. Okay, so you have the option, do you want fast momentum on your side? Do you want slow momentum on your side? Do you want to stop taking trades if it's overbought or oversold? You've got those as capabilities there. But then we also added a two moving averages on the actual momentum sub panel here as well. So you can have it set to that when this crosses over, that it will allow for shorts at that point. So you can get quicker, quicker entries into that direction if you want. Another cool feature is you can have, X number of trades per direction. So this is especially great for something like this, which is a trending tool, right? If you've got, like in here, we can see we've got a trade here fired off short. We've got another trade here fired short. And we get a third one. And at that point, it's like, do you want to keep taking shorts or do you want to just hang tight, until you get a long type of, setup? And so that's nice because you can do those type of things, right? Cool. So yeah, so those are all available. And then the bottom indicator, yep, is the VM lean. Whole moving average, I don't know. I don't know that one actually, sorry. So, all right. And is the structure break always required to see the CWAP? Yes, it is, because that's part of the setup. So what we're looking for, it's sort of what validates that we have a trend and an opportunity for a pullback, right? Like you don't want to do this kind of thing and go, okay, we're going to get short. We never broke structure. So you're trading into, liquidity here and you didn't get any follow through. And so, yeah, so that's not going to be good. This is just the 1000 volume MNQ, and this is on the scalp V1. Okay, that's what we're looking at. All right, so we've got all the same filters. There's some new things that have been added in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up so we can go through the settings, what they do, how they work, and we'll start there. So let's go to the CWAP algo. I'm just going to add another one so we can see everything. Okay, so let's start with swing strength. Okay, so we've got swing strength. What is swing strength? This is the strength of these zigzags here. Okay, so these zigzags, the larger the number, the more bars it's going to take to change direction on the wave. And so it's going to have to sweep, the market's going to have to sweep above X number of bars to get a new wave in a new direction. Okay, so the higher that number, the less zigzags you're going to have. The smaller that number, the more you're going to have. Okay, so whereas like a 2 might look like this, but a 5 might, in the same market, might look like this. All right, so big consideration into how you set up your trades, because remember, anytime you get a break of structure, you've got a CWAP, and it can look to trade that. Now, there's some other things that you can filter out in the system, and we'll look at it, but that's what that does. Include the wicks and the pivots. I don't know why you wouldn't, but you could try. Yes, I know. I'm just looking at this so we can see everything, and then I'll remove it. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. So minimum boss line length. And let me cancel out of here for a second so I can zoom in. And we're just going to go back to this big one because it's easier to see. Let's go here. Okay. One right off the open there, and bam. Okay. So the minimum boss line length is, if you were to measure from this pivot to this break, how many bars is that? Well, that's 77 bars. So the settings are asking how many bars minimum do you need in order to get something that you want to trade. So if you don't care if it's like a really small number, then you can just set this to like, 3, 4, 1 for that matter, if you don't care. The downside too, if you've got only a 1 or 2 bar, break, what that's going to do is it's going to give you really quick pullbacks, and it's going to be a small pullback. And sometimes you can get whipped around on those trades, and they're not quite as good. So they've added that functionality in there. So you can optimize for that, for your market, and see what makes sense. I'll tell you too, this is going to also impact each other, because if your swing strength is set to 20 and it looks like this, and your minimum bars is like 5, well, it becomes a non-factor, because you're never going to get a boss break that's going to be like a 5, or seldom, if ever. Okay. So those play into each other. So it's good to know the relationship between the two. Okay.
I would say that the boss line length is low priority in terms of optimizing. I mean, that's not something you really need to worry about
Yeah.
optimizing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's more about the swing strength. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, good call. So then CWAP standard deviations. So we're all familiar with standard deviations, like a, Bollinger Band or something like that. The CWAP standard deviations, what we've found is, at least for me, anywhere between a 0.5 and a 0.9, maybe even a 1, has been a good number. You can, try it, different settings, figure out what works. It's a little bit tricky in this case, because the way that they coded this is, normally your standard deviation would be like, okay, we look at a circle, right? You've got radius and diameter. Okay. So normally you're going to look at the radius, right? You're going to look at from the midpoint to here, and that's going to be usually a standard deviation. In this case, what they did was they used both sides. So it's more like a diameter versus a radius, if that makes sense. Okay, so bear in mind, whatever this number is, divide it in half, and that's kind of the standard deviation. So in this case, it would be 0.25 here and 0.25 on the bottom, and the total sum being 0.5. Okay. So it's just something to bear in mind. That's just the way that they programmed it. So, but yeah, you can mess with those numbers and see what works for you.
In the template, it's closer to 1, I believe.
Is it oh, this is just these are just
So just what
settings. Let me
for
pull up
anyone
the original
is,
settings.
would there be anybody in the audience that would be familiar with the anchored volume tool? Are they
I'm
using
sure
that?
most of us.
The difference is that the way that was coded and the way this algo was coded, the multiplier that you use in anchored volume is twice the size as, I'm sorry, it's half the size as what you would use in the anchored volume. I'm sorry, in the algo here to be equivalent. It's just the way it was coded.
Yeah,
So if you're used to using 0.5 in anchored volume, you would use the equivalent to that would be closer to 1 in this algo.
correct.
So it could cause confusion for people that are using both, but just
Yeah.
want to point that out.
Yep, very good. Yeah, so that's what that's doing. Ticks per cluster. Why would this be important? It is if you're using a very high tick count bar. So let's say NQ. Let's say you have settings on ES and you've got it set to 1 tick per cluster level. That would be perfectly normal. NQ, however, is going to have usually 4 times the number of ticks versus ES over the same time frame. So if your bar on ES, if your average bar size is say 8 ticks, and your average bar size on NQ is 32 ticks, keeping in mind of how this is working is that the CWAP is only taking into consideration the 3 highest ticks per bar. So when you look at it that way, well, 3/8 is, what, 38%, 37, 38%, something like that. Versus, 3 divided by 32 is like 10% of the bar. So just keeping that in mind on how CWAP is calculating it, it's a volume weighted average based on the cluster of volume versus the entire bar of volume. Okay. So that's a factor and something that you want to pay attention to, especially for NQ, because it does have more, and it has more going on. So it's up to you on how you want to do that, but some things to consider. Most of the time, you're going to keep it set to 1 unless you're using a higher tick count. Okay. CWAP length after the boss. Okay, this would be one that's going to come up as you might not get a trade. And you wonder, I had this beautiful CWAP and we came in here and oh my gosh, it was beautiful and it didn't take the trade. Why? Well, there's a max number of bars now on the other side of the break. We've got, a boss line length minimum. And then we have a max after the break. How many bars will we allow after this break before we just say, I'm good, I'm not going to take the trade now because it took too long? So this is set to 200, but let's say you want it set to 20, and then you just count, however many 20 bars. When it gets to 20 bars, it's not going to trade that CWAP anymore. That CWAP is dead. Okay. So that's what that's doing. So that's a factor that will prevent trades.
And you'll notice in the templates that number is quite a bit smaller for the length after the boss.
Mhm.
What we found is that, sometimes when the market really moves, like it breaks the structure line, and then it just moves and keeps going. And then when it finally does come back and touch the CWAP band, I mean, the move's over. So that's
Yeah.
the reason for having shorter numbers for that length, that max
Mhm.
length. And what we found is that lowering that quite a bit tended to get rid of more bad trades than good trades.
Mhm.
So it's just something to think about. That default value is just what got put in as default in the software, but
Mhm.
take a look at shorter lengths so that you're not taking trades, too late in the trend. That's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Good call. Yeah, and Paul has a good question. Is it safe to say we can use the template as a baseline for those just starting out with algo trading? Yes, absolutely, 100%. I would say in that case, grab a few trades when you got what you need for the day, flip it off, turn it off, don't flip it off, you know what I mean. Turn it off because you got what you need. Whereas those that have more experience with algos might be more comfortable with letting it run because they're more familiar with what it's doing and so on. But yes, that's a great starting point. That's what they're designed to be. I have some templates available for ES, specifically MES, that I can get to you, and then you guys can run with them for sure. And the thing of it is, like, yeah, flip it off. It's easy. It's easy to get good settings with this tool, which is great. Yeah, so we'll look at it. Minimum bars outside the band and the boss. Okay, so what is that? So that means with this, once we have the break, how many bars do we need beyond the break before we're willing to trade it? What this is going to do is it's going to take the entire bar and it's going to figure, is it below the breakout level? If it's below, then that counts as 1 bar. Okay. So if we have it set to, let's say 3 bars, then you're telling the system not to trade the CWAP until you've had enough follow through after the break of structure. So why would this be something you'd be interested in? This has a lot to do with liquidity sweeps. Let's say you get a really big run up and a run back down, but let's say, here's our breaking point. That's where we broke, and it came down to here, and we'll just kind of erase these bars for a second. And let's say it came right back to the CWAP. Well, this is a liquidity sweep. This is not directional bias. This is a fake out breakout, right? Also known as stop run, also known as liquidity sweep, number of different terms. And so if it's breaking this and coming right back for your CWAP, you may not have as good of a trade as you think. And instead of going for the CWAP, what they'll do is they'll blaze right through that and they'll come back up to the order block at the highs, trade off of that, and you're sitting there with a stop out. So you can set that to a minimum number if you find yourself getting into trades that you're like, really don't like that, how it just came right out and pushed right back in. Well, that's what you want to set. Okay. So you can filter some of those out. Good deal. Yeah. RTY is a good one. Very, very good with CWAP for sure. Is the bar allowed to be the first bar of the retrace? I think it has to be open, high, low, close beyond the boss line break. Is that right, Jeff?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
It has to be
Full open,
outside.
high, low, close.
Now,
Yeah.
just having said that, you can set that parameter to 0.
Yep.
And so if you just wick down there, but come back right back up, you'll take a trade. It's very aggressive. You'll get more trades. But I think you probably get better results with at least requiring 1 bar to be beyond the boss line. But you can set it to 0. We didn't originally have that. And then we decided, well, let's just go ahead and not restrict, let's just place no restrictions on it. You can just decide whatever you want.
One of the best things that got added is because, these are variable size trades. Every trade is a little different in terms of sizing. And so one of the best things here is the fixed cost trade versus static. So if you set it to static, it's going to ask you how many ticks and how many contracts, or at least how many contracts. Percent of balance is, well, of course, how much do you want to risk per account balance? And now I assume this is going to reset end of day, not end of trade, right, Jeff? Is that correct?
You're talking about the sizing?
The percent of balance calculation? Like
Well,
if
you
you're
see, yeah, so what it does is it takes, you trade through the day, you have a P&L added to or subtracted from your balance. It's whatever the current balance of that account is at the time of the trade. Does that answer your question?
intraday or at the end of the day? Like, does it
Intraday,
recalculate the balance?
intraday,
Okay, every
intraday.
trade. All right, cool.
And you'll notice in the strategy analyzer where you're doing, backtest and optimizations, there is a option to what's it called? It's called compounding. So whether you turn that on or off determines whether it considers your current day P&L
Okay,
in the
that's
back
what that
test.
does. Yeah,
So but
gotcha.
it's not relevant for on a chart because you're trading live.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna just stick with fixed costs is probably the simplest thing there. And really great question here. And this is one that we knew was gonna come up and something that we wanted to address. So data lag, Vishal, reach out to support on that. They'll help you out. It could be a little quirk that we can fix. So what about, for prop firms that have max number of contracts, right? So what you want to do there, and the best way to kind of maneuver that is to tell it what your max target take profit is, and your minimum number of ticks. So you can set minimum ticks profit and maximum. And so by doing that, you're going to kind of limit how many contracts are getting traded, because so kind of the way to back into it is, let's say your max is 10 contracts, okay? And you're trading the full size ES. And so you would want to figure, well, what's your max risk? And so let's say you're going big and you're okay. Let's just say it's 125 just for the sake of it. Okay. This is an easy number. And so that would be 10 ticks per contract, right? I mean, you get the idea. I'm not explaining this very well, but you would set it so that your minimum number of ticks would not allow you to breach that max contracts. That makes sense. So like you have to figure your risk per trade and know what that is. And then whatever that is, you need to know what's your minimum tick count that's going to put you over that threshold. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, the minimum stop size is key for prop traders.
Yes.
because if it's too small, remember the dollar amount of risk is the same. So if since it's a variable stop system, if it happens to come up with a trade with a really small stop, it might put you over your max limit on how many the size, the lot size, the max lot size that your funding company allows you to have. So you just got to do the math. It's, let's say this is $500 risk per trade, and then look at the minimum allowable stop size under the stop losses section there, and then figure out how many contracts that is. And if that's over your max number of contracts you're allowed to trade, then you need to up that, either up the minimum allowable stop or reduce the fixed cost, the risk per trade. One of
Yes,
those two.
exactly. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So like in this case, if you had 500 risk per trade at 5 ticks, that's going to put you at 8 contracts. If your max is 10, then you're good. Then all right, my minimum is going to be 5. If your max risk per trade is 1,000, well, that's going to put you over. So then you have to bump the minimum number of ticks per trade. Can you trade just the max allowed lot size? Yes, but then every trade is going to be a different dollar amount. So if that's what you prefer, then go for it. What was the question? Account size, because that's what I want to use. Yeah, great. So if you're using like your account size to factor the trade, you would set it to percent of balance. And let's say you want to risk 1% per trade, and then you have the option of compounding. And so with that, it's gonna, at the end of each trade, it's gonna figure your account balance. So that was the question about that. Was if it does at end of day or end of trade. It does at each trade. So we'll keep that fixed cost. Entry order type market is great. I don't think it makes sense to do limit if touched on the CWAP. I think if it touches the CWAP, enter the trade, right? Yep, exactly. Same is true for most, John. Yeah, exactly. So you can't go over the max number of contracts, right? So another reason why you want to be in front of your algo as well, because if you've got 5 contracts on crude oil, and then it wants to take 7 contracts on the full size ES, that's going to put you over your 10. Well, then you got to be able to say, let me flatten out the ES trade and turn it off so that you're not going to get kicked out, right? So good to know. Cool. Limit pre-order gap bars, just leave that to 0. In this case, if you're using market, opposite signal, you're probably not going to encounter that much with this system, but we just leave it set to none. Allow entries on exit bars. That could come up. It's up to you. It's basically just saying if you exit a trade for stop or for profit for that matter, will you be able to take a trade at the close of that bar? That's up to you if you want to do that. Auto disarm is something that is also really, really great. Auto disarm, what it's going to do, it's going to put you into a mode where the system will not trade, but it will still show you all the signals. And it will only trade if you manually engage the system. And then once that trade is done, then it will automatically disengage the system. So it'll take one trade and then it relies on the trader to then re-engage the system once they're comfortable with the trade and they want it to be able to trade. So, that could be great for a lot of the gap traders where you kind of have different criteria of what you're looking for, but you don't want to have to physically, drag, how you see us always dragging the limit order down and you say, well, I don't really want to do that. So I just want the algo to get me in. Then you would set it to, sort of auto disarm, and then you would just fire it to go short because it's a valid live trade. And then it will just take the trade once it comes into that zone. It will set the number of contracts you want. It'll set your targets and stops. And of course, you can move those if you really want to, but it's just a great option to have available. So gap traders, I think you guys will love that. So, and then this is one question that we get every once in a while is I have this on my chart, but it's not taking any trades. What's the deal? You may have it set to you may have it set to backtest mode. So you got to make sure if you're trading it live, it's got to be real time or combined. Okay. Backtest mode is just going to mean it's going to show you all the trades on the chart, but it's not going to trade live. Real time is not going to show you any of the historical trades, only going to trade forward, and then combined does both. All right, enable algo stop loss. What this is going to do is it's going to set the stop loss based on the other end of the CWAP. So let's just say for a second, we're going to play make believe. Let's say we took a trade here to go short. Okay, so where does the stop go? Stop is going to go at the other end of the other side of the CWAP based on a multiple or percentage of that. So this, right at the edge is going to equal 1. Okay. If you want it to be, double that, then you'd set it to 2. If you want to give yourself a 20% buffer, you're going to set it to 1.2. Okay. So that is how it figures the stop. Or you could say, my market, I like a 40 tick stop on NQ. I want it to be the same every time. You can do it that way too. And then in that case, max number of contracts and all this stuff doesn't even apply. Okay. So that's an option. Of course, you have the minimum allowable stop. This is what we were talking about, where, like on an ES, you may not want to trade for less than 6 ticks on a stop, or you might have a 10 tick minimum stop. NQ, you might have a 40 minimum. You might have a 25 minimum. It's up to you. Max.
So the way you access the other way to set the stop is to uncheck the enable algo stop loss. That'll expose, the standard core engine stop logic.
Yep. And then you got your trails and all that stuff. But the algo stop loss is going to just set it to the band. Yeah. Band width multiplier. So this is where you'd set it. So let's say you want your stop to be 1.2 of the other side, then it's going to give you a 20% buffer on the other side. Okay. Max allowable stop. This would be how big do you want your trade to be, and do you want to sit in it all day, or do you want to just wait for the next one? So, yeah. The volume times similar settings. Minute bars are different. Yeah, they're all a little different. So, CPU and RAM, I would say, probably 16. I don't. The CPU is more about age than speed or number of, I don't know what cores or whatever. But that's a question for support. They can answer that for you. I know a lot of our traders use VPS and prefer to do it that way, and you can certainly do that. You just got to make sure you've got enough RAM and all that for that to work. So, but like I say, support can give you more details on that. Cool. So we've covered that. Targets. So what are your options for targets? It is going to be going back to the low. So let's say we're going to just move this here. Let's say this is our low and we got the trade right here. What it's going to do is going to measure that distance. If you tell it to trade to the low, then it's going to be profit target is going to be 1. If you want to trade it past that, let's say you want to trade it as a Fibonacci extension, and then you would set it to 1.26 or whatever the number is. I don't know. Then that would set it to a Fibonacci, right? So you can do that as well as an option. Or you could just say, I want to trade to 80% of the low. Then it'll go to right here. Okay, so that's how you'd set the target based on the system. So if we just set it to risk reward for a second here and we use enable algo profit target, what this is saying is that it's going to trade to 80% of the low that caused the pullback back into the CWAP.
Just to clarify something, so the target type of risk reward ticks or whatever, that if you're selecting enable algo profit target method and that's checked, then that first setting, the target type, only applies to target 2 and target 3. And notice that it says enable algo profit target 1.
Yeah.
So it's only for target 1. So we're using this algo specific logic for target 1, But the reason we left that target type exposed is because you might be entering 3 different targets.
Yeah.
So the 0.8 there that you have for a target 1 multiple, that's the applied to the distance from the entry to the max excursion price that you were
Yep.
talking about. But
Cool.
it's not just a risk reward multiple. It's kind of confusing because it says RR up there. But if you have that check, the algo profit target method check, then it's not applying. It's not saying that it's an RR of 0.8. It's
Yeah.
the distance.
Yeah. Exactly. Good call. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's great. So cool. So then we have, 3 different target types here as well. So let's say we uncheck this and we have it set to now a risk reward multiple of the stop. You want to set it to 1 to 1, great. You want to set it to 10 to 1, however you want to do that. Okay, so you've got that as an option as well, or you can, just leave it like ticks, of course. We'll just leave it there and then enable profit target. 0.8, and then of course you got max and minimum profit targets based on if you're using the algo to set your target. Cool. Moving right along, start time, end time goes without explaining. Invalid trade windows, if you want to block the open, but you want to trade pre-market and post-market open, you can do that. You can block out any certain times. You can block out certain days of the week. You can also skip certain dates. So let's say you want to skip Martin Luther King Day. That's probably a wise choice. Then you would just add that date into the system here. And so let's get rid of these dates. I just want to show you something here. So let's say we've already got Martin Luther King Day, but we want to add another date, and we'll just go 01, oops, 01, 2024. And now that is added. Hit enter. Now that's added as a date that it will not backtest for you. So when you're optimizing, this is very important that you want to block out certain dates because it's not normal trading, holidays, things like that. So
You can also pick the date from a calendar by clicking that down arrow.
yep. Really a cool feature, especially for getting optimizations done and so on. So very cool. Yeah, the templates have trade times enabled. Yeah, so I think all of them do. So cool. And then all the filters, we've got money management, we've got limit trades in one direction, like we talked about. Moving average filters, we talked about those. And you can even have it set on a different chart. Let's say we're trading a 1,000 volume, but we want to use the EMAs on a 1-minute chart. You can do that. Or you want to use a higher time frame chart. You can do that and just set it to 5 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever you want to do. So that's an option as well. And you can, the thing is you can't optimize that. You have to know what chart you want. You can optimize the periods. You cannot optimize the time frames. Zigzags. In this one, it's not been a factor as much as some of the other algos, but we do have structure as a requirement. In other words, if the market is breaking the lows, it will trade short. If it's breaking the highs, it will trade longs. Not really a factor on this one. I would just, from all the testing I did, made more sense to just leave it off because the system's already got a component of structure built into it anyway. And then the VM lean panel, all the filters there, and talked about the different EMAs. If you want to use those as the crossover, you can require that as well. And then visuals. You can change colors. You can do whatever you want to do there, and la-di-da, you're good to go. Okay, so that's how it works. So what questions do you have so far? This one is got a lot going on in a good way, but it's got kind of a lot going on. So that took us a while to get through. Anybody have any questions that all make sense? Everybody good to go? Give me a yeah, we're good to go if you're with me and ready to go on to the next thing. Good to go, good to go. Bueller.
I think you put them to sleep, Jim.
I put myself to sleep. It's a problem. Like I already know this stuff. It's good. All right, we're good to go. Yeah, there's no ES or CL templates in the members area. It's all been on NQ. It's been the best results have been on NQ. So yeah, MNQ for that matter. Yeah, if you want to do NQ, it's going to be pretty similar. The volume is going to be different though. From what I've seen, switching from, say a full size to a micro has not been too much different from one to the other. The only thing is if you're using a volume chart, the volume numbers are drastically different, of course. So we just have to figure out the volume numbers on that. But yeah, if you're scalping NQ and you want to, not get eaten alive in commissions, that's understandable. Yeah. MNQ's been fine. It's been okay. I got some questions coming in here. Um, I would let it run long and short, unless you're really, really biased on what the day's direction is, then I would leave it for both. You can run it for MNQ, MCL, MES for sure. Absolutely. What do I like better? I think NQ has been the best, MNQ. I think that's been the best in terms of getting the results with CWAP in general. So, and the same has been true for the back tests. Save the templates to the folder where they don't show up in the template. That's a question for support. I'm not sure.
Did he take them out of, did he unzip the zip file? I think it's in a zip file.
Oh, if it's in a zip file, you do need to pull them out of the zip and paste them in the folder manually. Yes.
That could be
Possible to filter out the bad traits. Yes, that's the point. That's why we have all the settings and filters. It's an optimization thing.
We need to have an option that says pull out all the bad trades.
Yeah. Oh, if only we could do that in
Once
live
we figure that one
markets.
out, we'll all retire.
We'll just, yeah, we'll just overthrow the markets. Couldn't get good results like MNQ. Yeah, the volume numbers are a lot different. MNQ is going to be fine, David. Yeah, it's fine. I don't think you'd be too bad off on that. I mean, we can look at this here. Let's see. So real time and historical. So this is over the course of 10 days, and there's 56 trades, 4,500 in net profit. Average trade $80. So, based on that, I think you'd be fine. What the average commission's, what, couple bucks per contract, right? So you'd have to figure out how many contracts it's trading, but you can do the math on that. I don't think this is set for commissions just because my commissions are different and I don't like them to be in there. So, but you can do the math on that. So, template window. I'm not going to go deep into each template, just simply because I didn't create the templates and it would take me a while to go through them all. So just go ahead and take a look at them and see, which you like best. I think there's, sort of different settings for different jobs, like with the NQ, MNQ, you've got a scalping, you've got a morning, just off the open, you've got higher arm multiples, that sort of thing. So the best filters. So that's a good question. And I like the question. To me, the best filter that I've found with trending systems are the EMAs. And that's been the best. And then the EMAs on the VML have been the best from what I've seen. Certain systems, though, work really great with momentum on a histogram basis. So, it depends on the market too. So, yeah. Yeah, you can set the number of contracts. Absolutely. It just won't be the same dollar amount per trade in that case. Yeah. Yeah, if I could filter out all the future losses, that would be great. I think it's best to trade MES, MCL, MNQ, or even M2K or RTY could be a good one. So how do you display the bottom histogram? Just have a dotted line. Not sure why that would be, but you just want to make sure it says show VM subpanel. Okay. Thanks, Heron. Appreciate that. Yeah, right. Yeah, I have 3-minute templates. I will gladly get those to you. Let's take a look at them. Yeah. Histo EMA crossover has been great. Yes. And then the EMA crossover on the chart itself has been great too. So this is, this was the 45-second chart. Let's take a look at this while we're at it, and then we'll kind of flip to the 3-minute charts and you can go through those. Admittedly, it was great. And then the last couple days, here's the thing about, yeah, this is Jim. The thing about the 3-minute charts, okay, there's not as many trades. So what does that mean? That means the time from 0 to hero is longer. All right. So the settings are not going to be like, woohoo, oh my God, amazing, another amazing day. Every day is awesome. Like some days are going to be like, oh, that day sucked. Another day is going to be great. Next day is going to suck. Next day is going to be great and great and great and then sucks. It's not a day-to-day type of thing. It's more of a week-to-week type of thing. So just bearing in mind that the higher the time frame you go, the longer your curve is to getting to where you want to be. Okay, so if that makes sense. Now, for me, it's fine because I trade other things and that's not a problem. And I don't mind if the algo takes a loss across a couple instruments for the day, so be it. But so just so you know, going into it, it's going to take a little longer. So this looks pretty good. So we had an entry here that was a stop out. This one's a little tough. We came right to it, didn't quite get there, and then took the trade later, and that was a stop. This might be a little bit too quick on a 45-second on CL. I think realistically you'll do better with higher charts on CL over the long run. But there's just some days where CL works great with this setup, and other days where it just doesn't. It just takes stop outs. And it can be like the cleanest thing you've ever seen, and you're like, how come that didn't work? Yeah, that one. Anyway, so that's the 45-second. Let me pull up the 3-minute and we'll look at that. MCL 3-minute. Okay. So we've got MCL. Yes, yes, yes. Cool. We'll run this. 1,000 volume is about 60% of a 1 minute. So it's quicker than a 1 minute. Yeah. So here's the 3-minute. And that was the results. Looked really great. Good numbers. This is at 1-to-1 risk reward. And as you can see, like you're not getting trades every day. Like you got one on the 8th, one on the 10th, two on the 12th. This for me and my trading is perfectly normal. Like I don't mind this at all because I'm not just trading CL, you know. So that's a factor. And then, since then, I don't think it's had that many trades. We can extend it out and see. So the question becomes with something like this, like it was optimized through the 24th. When do we look to sort of swap? And you're like, okay, I got 2 stop outs on the settings. It's not the end of the world, but is it something that, needs to be re-optimized? Maybe. I don't know. So, but I would say give it a couple weeks. Like, don't just, reinvent the wheel after a couple stop outs, right? It's kind of that kind of idea with these settings. And that's why it's not like, everybody has a different, thing of what works for them. So go with what works for you. Does it work with Renko bars? Yeah, it does. It sure does. I haven't tested any Renko bars or range charts or anything like that, but yeah, it definitely works. So here's ES. This would be, same time period. Again, looks great, but there's only 9 trades. So it's 8 out of 9, which is excellent, but it's not a big enough sample size to really know like, okay, yeah, this is really going to be it for me. So, but it's a starting point, it's a starting point to give you what you need, what's going to work based on more current. And then you can go back and look at other time frames if you want to see what sort of the variance of optimizations you're getting. And I'm kind of going down a tangent here, so I'm going to just stop there before I get too deep in this hole of talking about all sorts of different scenarios. Okay, and then MNQ, there's a 3-minute, and then there's a 1,000 volume that I did too. Now, why would I do a different setting for 1,000 volume? Because I don't need as many trades. And so I was curious, well, what could I get with a 1,000 volume? that didn't take as many trades. And so there's just so many settings, and it's really easy to come up with good ones. So what I figure we'll do, I'll give you guys these settings. I'll paste them in, and I'll paste them in the members area. I do have one on MES that was good on a volume chart. So I want to look at that one before we get any further, and I'll paste that for you guys too, because I was pretty happy to see how that turned out. So we're waiting, it's running. This is MNQ on a 1000 volume. This is settings that I came up with or worked on. And that's the cool thing, right? Like Jeff's coming up with some stellar settings, probably better than mine. And I have some settings that I like based on my own trading, and they're fine too. So you can see here, like this is great. So we can go here, 1.8, 80 trades. It's great. Good number of trades and decent profit, So anyway, so these are different. So let's go over the MES 750 volume. MES, switch it around. Okay. I'm going to pull up a Renko chart, and I'm just going to put random settings on it. I'm not going to worry too much about what those settings are. Yeah, so 750, good starting point. It's 36 trades, which is a good number, and decent profit factor. Equity curve looks fine. Not seeing a lot of huge losses or anything like that, so that's cool. We can go trade by trade. Yeah, kind of went sideways there for a while before having a nice uptick. But you always want to see that it's, toward the end, like you're getting good trades toward the end, not like, hey, and then it just goes flat. Like you want to know that more recently you're getting good trades. So yeah, so I'll paste those. Let's look at a Renko chart. Let's just go into here and let's pull it up. Let's go 5, 10, 4, and I'm just going to put like 10 days on here. Cool. And then I have no idea what the settings need to be. So if you see red, don't get mad at me now. This is just a demonstration. Let's put it on this template. Back test, cool, good. Sure thing. There we go. Yeah, you can save the templates either in the chart or in the back testing, however you want to do that. I have 0 trades, I think. That's strange.
We're going to have to look into that.
Yeah,
I don't know why
0 trades.
why you would need to use Rinkos, because this is
Yeah,
connecting the highs and lows of price action.
yeah,
So
it's kind of doing it already.
what does adding a Renko bar type add to that? The logic
Yeah.
already covers the structure of the market. And also keep in mind that we have a setting that requires the entire bar to be beyond the boss line, but
Mm-hmm.
Renkos have an artificial open. So
Yeah, that's true.
I think you're kind of um, I don't know that you need to use Renkos to get the benefit out of this algo.
Yeah,
I
I
really
think you
don't.
might be right there. Range looks good. Could use range bars. Certainly could. And a nice trade there. We can just look at it while we're here. Stop out there. It's a little aggressive, I think, personally. I think you're probably better off with volume bars than anything. So, yeah, there you go. Difference between range and full range. Good question. So with a range bar, so we could see that the next bar open starts at the previous bar's close. On a normal range chart, it would give you a gap. It would gap down, and that would be your open. So this is, yeah, so when you have it set to the full range, it's compensating for that. Must be something going on in the news. Markets are flipping around. A lot of volume coming in. This is a 10 range on ES. Seems to be a pretty decent number anyway. So there you go. Let's go to, I'm just going to give you an example of, maybe we'll look at another market just for fun, just to show you kind of an idea of how to optimize. I always like to kind of give a quick run through on that. I'm not going to take a ton of time because we're already about an hour in, but let's check it out. Where to find the best tested templates? Be in the members area. So those are going to be your best templates. The other ones that I created, think of them as like, they're a good starting point. You might need to go through and optimize some more. I didn't spend a ton of time on them. But yeah, you might need to mess with them a little bit. I don't know what the volume is on RTY, so I'm just going to do a quick analysis just so that I know, and we'll run it on that. So let me just get a new chart here, and I'll do that real quick. All right. Jeff can answer that question, Samuel. I'll have him jump in there.
Okay, so you're talking, yeah, I wanted to mention this. So there's 3 templates that were in the workspace that we shared for the launch. One's called scalp, one's called high frequency, one's called first half hour. So, in a nutshell, scalp is kind of the nice middle of the road. It takes, to give you an idea, for the month of January through the 26th, the scalp template took, I have this right here. It took, where is it? Sorry. 43 trades. Okay. And that's about 2 to 3 trades a day. Then there's the high frequency, which basically changes some of the settings so you get more trades. And that one takes about twice as many trades, about 5 to 6 trades a day. Just, and this is all based on the back test. And then when we were looking at the results of all these back tests, we noticed really high profitability in the first half hour of the trading of the day, that first half hour. So that third template called first half hour is only trading for 30 minutes after the open. And that one takes probably 1 or maybe 2 trades a day, but with a high hit rate. So that's the difference between the 3, just to give you an idea. It's just kind of give you different flavors of how you might, set the template. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. So Mayorkas impeached. How impeachment process. Interesting. All right, whatever. Politics. I don't get into that stuff. Okay, so here's our starting point for RTY. Let's go to the chart and check it out. So the first thing I always like to do is just get the settings, get it on a chart, start looking at it. What is it doing? What do I like? What do I not like? I don't like that it didn't take a trade here and that it waited to take the trade here. So what do I need to do differently? Well, I've got 1 bar beyond, so I'm going to go back up here and let's take a look. Swing strength, it's based on the swing strength. Maybe that's a bit high. So I'm just going to bump this down a little bit, take a look at it there. I'll just set this to 4. These are kind of my standard numbers. Max CWAP, I'm just going to leave it at like 30 just to see them all, and then we can go through and
on that one, you would probably, if you wanted to get a trade there, you'd probably increase your CWAP standard deviation multiple a little bit.
Well, it's swing. You see how this has a bigger swing than this one. This is the zigzags are on the chart.
You have your structure
zigzags
filter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's set to on.
It's not required though.
No, it's not
your structure
required,
filter
but
is not required.
See how it's set to 3. I want to try it at 3 and see. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you've got, the first 30 minutes and you've got a trade and, you know, you're good to go. Yeah, that gave back a lot of profit. So let's go back here, bump this back up. Yeah, still not great, but that's okay. Let's go to the chart. Yeah, you can. I think, like I say, for me, I just like to see it first and then kind of go through and look at it from there. That one's fine. That's good. Okay, I'm going to turn the zigzags off so I don't have to see them. Let's get rid of those. Cool deal. All right, so now let's just save this as a starting point. So I'm just going to go in here, RTY, starting point, save it. I'm going to go over to optimization and go here. So now, first thing I want to look at is different swing strengths. I never really want to go less than a 3. I'm going to go 3 to 6, minimum boss line. I'm just going to go 3 to 6 again. And then standard deviation, I'm going to leave it at 0.9 for now. Ticks per cluster 1 is fine. Max CWAP length. Bars outside. I'll leave those alone. Minimum allowable stop, though, I do want to change for RTY to like 15. 1.2 max, fine. R&R is fine. I've just got it set to a 1-to-1 just for now. And then, so, again, this is kind of like a good starting point. Good to go. And I'm going to go to max net profit. Run it. Well, you don't want to optimize too much based on, November or December because it's different trading. If you want to, here's my thinking on this is you might want to have something if you're on a higher time frame, type of setup, like you're on a 3 minute, then it makes sense to go back and look at some different time frames. You always want your current to be the best. But if you want something that's also going to be good, from back then, well, then you can look to optimize based on that. But if you've got in the month of January, like if you've got 100 trades in January, like don't go back to December and November. Yeah, because you're just going to end up going down a rabbit hole of trying to get good settings and you'll be at it forever. So, okay, so 5 and 5 was the numbers. And so I'll stick with that. So that's cool. So we'll lock these in 5 and 5. No, this is just my own preference. Like you can set it to I don't know that I'd go beyond 20 personally, but you can certainly, whatever makes sense to you. 0.7 to 1. And I'm going to go by 0.1s. And then I'll optimize this guy here too. Max, I'm just going to go 5 to. See, that's the thing though. I'm going to go 5 to 20 for now. See if it makes much of a difference. And if it does, then I'll look at bigger numbers. So we got 64. So this might take a little bit, but I don't expect it to take too long.
Yeah, I've been watching this setup for a really long time, and what I noticed is that a lot of times you get a pullback almost very soon after the structure break. It's a quick one. It
Mm-hmm.
just shoots back in there and then it takes off again. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to isolate that, that's how you do it is by putting in a fairly small number for that, length after the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you leave the default of 200 in there and it never comes back and touches the CWAP band, then you're going to have this CWAP band going on forever and ever. And it could be that by the time it does finally touch it, the big move is over. So
Mm-hmm.
it just it's something worth optimizing, I think, looking
Yeah.
at smaller values of it.
Yeah, it makes sense for sure.
There's just a lot of different ways to use this. That's the bottom line.
Everything is kind of imbalanced too. Like, they kind of all balance each other to some degree.
Yeah.
Kind of all related. I'm gonna go back and look at the questions. There was something I wanted to mention and then I kind of forgot. So yeah. Oh, there was a question of volume versus minute bars. It's a good question. Here's my philosophy on volume bars. And take it or leave it. It's just my opinion. It's not right or wrong. It's just is what I think. I don't like trading on less than a 3-minute bar ever. As far as minute bars are concerned, for me, it's 3 minutes and up. If I go less than a minute bar, then I switch to volume because the volume is going to be more fluid. It's easier to trade versus if you go to a 1 minute, it's like chop, 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 chop. There's just no rhyme or reason to it. It's way too whippy. So that's my take on volume versus minute bars. How do you switch to optimization? All you do is you go up to this top thing and you switch it to optimization, and then you'll be good to go. So cool. So this worked out max 18. Let's go to the next one is max 20, max 17, 19. So the 15 to 20 was kind of the best range. So for now, I'm going to kind of lock that in, and then we can always go back if we need to. In terms of the excursion, looks like 0.8, 0.9 was the best. 0.8 being the best. So I'll go with 0.8. Maybe 8. There we go. 0.8. And I don't need to optimize this anymore. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with this, happy with this. This is just what I do too, just to kind of get stuff out of the way. Minimum bars, we're just going to go from 0 to 20. Let's just run that. Obviously, we're not going to go with 20. I don't know why I put that in there, but can you demo savings? Yes, I will, Greg. Yeah, absolutely. So Greg noticed a really quirky thing with Ninja. If you put all the parameters in to optimization and you save it, when you go to switch to backtest, it won't carry those settings to backtest. The only way to get settings from optimization into backtest mode is to physically run the optimization. Okay. So I'll give you an example here once we get a setting that we like. 4 minutes. What? You can go faster than that. Seriously? All right, I'm going to pull this back a little bit because I don't want to be here forever. Come on now. There we go. All right, let's go not 0 to 20. Let's go 0 to 10. See if it makes much of a difference. And then that's fine. 66 should be more tolerable, I think. So this is literally it, guys. I mean, this is what I do to optimize. I'm sure Jeff can chime in on, he has a different process that he uses too. And there's some back and forth, right? Like you've seen in some of the other events, if you've bought some of the other algos, sometimes you get a good setting, you run it, and then it's just not great. So you go in and yeah, change things up a little bit. So
Yeah, I think your approach and mine is pretty similar. I think there's a big value to trying a few settings first to get an idea. Because if you just randomly pick a bunch of ranges for everything without really looking at it and getting a feel for it, first of all, you're probably going to have too many iterations for Ninja to be able to handle it. So, you want to keep the number of iterations fairly reasonable so you're not waiting around for hours and hours. And maybe the worst thing is when you run it for 3 hours and then it runs out of memory and it never finishes. So it's better to have some idea of what ranges by looking at the charts like you do. And then when you do optimize, it's more reasonable, amount of time to get to something. That's sort of my philosophy.
I've got a comment coming in from someone. So I'm gonna kind of play devil's advocate here for a second. How many of you will trade this algo only on MNQ for good, only with our settings? Go ahead and give me a yes to MNQ only if that's how you're going to trade it. If you're going to trade it on different markets, in addition to MNQ, go ahead and put a different in the chat box for me. And keep them coming. Keep them coming. That's just humor me on this. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23. Over half of our audience who's chimed in said they're not going to just use it on MNQ, which is why we're looking at how to optimize for different markets, because not everybody's going to trade the same way. Some people are going to trade in a volume chart. Some are going to trade on a minute chart. Some are going to use 3 instruments, 2 instruments, 1 instrument. The settings that we provide are excellent. The settings that I'm providing are excellent too. If you want to optimize it, great. If you only want to trade it on MNQ, great. Do that. I'm not telling you what to do. Do what you want. So there you have it. Why pigeonhole you into one thing when we can show you more, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. So 48 trades, 2.6 profit. Yeah, these look great, right? So really looking good. The numbers that we're getting locked in here, 18, 20, 17, those are kind of still the best. So I would just go with 20. And if I saw a need to have to go back in and make yeah, hogs. If I saw a need to go back and change some of this, I would. Um, minimum bars outside is 1. So still looking good there. So we'll just keep it there. We need to run activator again. You might, Harry. That's a question for support. I'm going to assume yes, but I'm not sure. If you're not seeing it on your charts, but you've already installed the new zip, then yeah, probably. Yeah, those are all M and Q, Dan. Yep. So cool. So we got that locked in. The only other thing that I would want to look at is risk reward. Like what's going to give me the best profit factor? They say no to using risk. The activator. Okay, interesting. Then you might not need to. Make sure you've got it enabled. Okay, so when you're in your chart, you go in here and go to here. Just make sure that box is checked. Yeah, show them no trades. Make sure you've got it set to backtest or real time, depending on if you're running it forward as well. Yep. Let's go 0.5 to 2 to 1. Yeah, of course we'll send you the recording, no doubt. I don't think there's really anything else I would want to optimize on this. We could optimize for the filters, but I think realistically, Yeah, we've got pretty good settings. We'll do it this way and then take a look. Yeah, exactly, Michael. If it's in backtest mode, it will not take trades on the chart. So you got to make sure you've got it set to either combined or forward real time. Combined will show you the history, but it'll also show you forward trades. It's actually not, Vishal. Send me an email. I'll respond to you there. So you did twice today. You sent me 2 emails, you're saying, to me directly or to support? All right. Well, support's 24 to 48 hours. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Absolutely. Normally the team's pretty quick, but we've got a lot of stuff coming in. So just give us time. We'll get back to you. If you want to close a trade sooner, good question. Okay, so if you want to close a trade sooner, do you have to do something? There's 2 ways you can close the trade. One is you can just close the trade manually through Ninja. The other is you can go in and flip the system to off. So I'll show you that. So if you come in here and you go to off, that's going to close the trade for you too, and it'll turn the system off. So it won't take any other trades.
And if you do it the other way, where you just go into Ninja, then it'll disable the algo, just so you know.
Yes. The workspace only has charts. Will you go into strategy analyzer? Are you talking about this one? The workspace, yeah, you just go to new strategy analyzer and that'll pull it up. Yeah, Will, if you're already in our Discord, you should see the algo channels. Yeah. No, this one has disarm. Yeah, you just have to have it set that way. If you go into the settings here, I'll show you. There's your auto disarm. It's kind of hard to see, it's kind of hidden in there. There's a lot of settings, so just kind of search around. It's under entries, under that header. So cool. So yeah, going back to this. So this looks good. 2.5 profit, good. It's about 50 trades. Looks great. What did we end up on risk reward? 1-to-1, 1.4, 1.1. So yeah, I would just leave it at 1-to-1 in that case. And so yeah, so let's show you how to save it. So what we want to do is I'm just going to lock these in at 1-to-1 anyway. And then template, I'm going to go to save. And then we can go to, what is this? RTY. I'll just save it as that for now. And then, so now that I've run the test and saved it, if I go to back test, if I just flip over, everything should carry over. And you can go from one to the other. They should be the same. Okay. And then what I like to do is once I've gone back into backtest mode, I'm just going to go in and save it again, just so that it doesn't pull up as an optimization, but it pulls up as a backtest, and then I'll run it one more time. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We have where's the manual? I have it here somewhere. There it is. Yeah. Everything's written out for you in the manual. It's, a lot of info in here. So this is a good reference. So if you need to go back and go, what does this do? You can look it up in here. And if you're like, I don't want to read this whole thing, I just want to know what auto disarm does, well, then you just search for it, auto disarm. There it is. So yeah, it's all there for you.
The user manuals are written in a way that, I mean, I doubt that there's probably very few people that read it from beginning to end, but it's written in a way where you can isolate the one thing you're looking for fairly easily. And if that doesn't work, go to the end of the document. There's a 20-page long table that goes through each parameter individually and explains exactly what it is. So it's just it's a reference document a lot of times questions are, the questions you have are answered in that document. So it's handy to have. I would download it and keep a copy.
Yep. Another cool thing too, I didn't show it this time, usually I do, but if you're curious, like, what was that last back test I just ran and is it better and so on, you can go to your log by right clicking, hit show log. And if you want to look at this and like, okay, 76.55, what was our last test? It was 94.65. We can go back and look at the profit factor a little better. And so, sorry, I do talk fast. um, I apologize. I get rolling and um, there we go. And then I'll just save it because just for the sake of it. So that's it. So we've got some decent settings here on RTY too. You can see how simple it is to get some good settings on this system. Um, Man, it's a good one. This is, I've been, we've got a lot of really great systems. To me, this is probably my favorite. I have a few, but this is at the top of the list for me because I trade this. So it's a really great system. So enjoy it, use it, have fun. If you have any final questions, go ahead and punch those in the chat box and we'll grab those. And then I'll do a bit of a template dump in the discords so that you can go through and check it out. Save this RTY as something more meaningful. CWAP RTY. Eastern time on 30. All right. So you've already got Jeff's settings. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw a whole bunch in there and then you guys can go to town and optimize it a little bit more if you see fit. Run with it if you see fit. Totally up to you. And cool. There they go. All 7 of them. These are all Eastern time. And I think they all say what type of chart they are. So you should be good to go.
That's probably a good point just to reiterate is when you get a template, make sure that if you're in a different time zone than that template is set up for, make sure that you change the trade times in your template when you run it. And that includes not just the start and end time, but also the trade blocker times, the exclusion windows. All of those times are specific to a time zone. And if you don't match that, then you're just going to get completely different results.
Yeah, exactly. How do you get it? Great question. Okay, so they're in here. This is a question I get a lot. So you've got this setting here. How do you get it into Ninja? Like, that's the question, right? So what we're going to do is we'll pull up, you go to your downloads, and you're going to see, here, I'll just pull it up. Here's the download, right? So I'm just going to, you can either cut it, you can move it to your desktop, whatever you want to do. But then you go to Documents, NinjaTrader 8, Templates, Strategy, CWAP. So there on the header, you can see where it goes, and then you just paste it. So the first thing you have to do is you download it from Discord. Then it's going to show up in your downloads, and you just need to move it from your downloads to this folder, paste it, and you're good to go.
One other thing to mention there is that folder that's specific to this algo does not exist on your hard disk until you're in NinjaTrader and you go to either load or save a template.
Mhm.
That's what creates that folder. So the first thing you have to do after you install the software is to add the algo to a chart and then open up the algo settings window. And then at the bottom where it says template, click template and then click save. And then you just cancel out of that. That action is what creates that folder in the first place. Because if you don't do that, then the folder won't be there to do what Jim just said.
Yep.
That's wanted to make sure you got that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, all the new settings, guys, they're all Eastern time, and you'll see that with an ET in there. These are all Eastern time. Yeah. I know you see it and you're like, what the heck? It's like code. Yeah, so just copy it, paste it, and you'll be good to go. So we can go look at the analysis, maybe, maybe not. We'll see. There it goes. Yeah, that's good. Looks really good. And a couple losing days in there. Nothing too out of hand. Getting at least a couple trades a day on most days. Pretty good settings. I will tell you, we've been talking about this in the trade room. Some of my favorite things to trade CWAP on is RTY. It's one of my favorites. Always has been, actually. And crude oil, I love trading crude, but I think it's more from an order flow standpoint. Really like trading order flow on crude. CWAP's good. It's just, I think it's probably better on RTY and ES and NQ and some of those. I think it just works better on those. Still works good, works well on CL, but I think the other ones are going to give you more of a run for your money and get you further. So cool. All right. Well, I think we're good to go then. If you think of anything else that you need help with, just send a message to support. They're always going to be the fastest. If you send it to me, I will get back to you. It usually takes me a day or two, just to be honest. So support's always going to be your lifeline. And besides, if it needs to come to me, they'll send it to me anyway. So if you have more questions you think of, just send them into support and we got you covered. We are glad to help you. And be sure to post your success. Keep the threads going, keep posting that success to help the other traders. We're all in this together, right? So if you see a trader asking questions and you're able to answer, please feel free to jump in and help a trader out every now and again. We're all in it together. So very cool. Well, that's it. Traders, have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for being a part of this, and thanks so much for the business and picking up the algo and putting your trust in us and being on this trading journey with us. We're excited to be here with you. So thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of the week, a great weekend. We'll catch you. It's only Tuesday. I don't know why I'm saying weekend. I feel like normally we do this toward the end of the week. So it's not even
It's only
close
the
to the
end. It's
weekend.
only the end. It's only the end of the week if you have a weekend.
Yeah. Jeff doesn't know what a weekend is. His just week to week to week to week.
I just know I have to take the trash out on Tuesdays.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to take the trash out on Sunday night. Whoops. All right, guys, have a good one.
Have a good one,
We'll catch you
everybody.
later. Take care, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.